I decided just to stick to the science and the water quality part of it.
There's a ton of other things in the water that we weren't aware of.
People want to know that the person that's treating the water that they drink every day for cooking, for drinking, for bathing, for everything, they want to know that that guy putting that in knows what is going to solve their problem.
How's it going, guys? I am John Graham. Welcome to another episode of The Fifth Element. Today we have a special day with Luke Timmons, the water specialist for Penguin Water.
Hello. Nice to be here.
Luke is a master water specialist joining us. And not only is he an expert on water quality and water filtration, but he is also our friend.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming, Luke.
Thank you for having me. We've been doing this for quite a few years now, the whole water quality thing. So this is good to be able to talk about it with your audience at large. Hey, John.
How's it going, Luke?
It's going good.
Luke flew here all the way from Indiana just to be with us today to shoot this podcast and talk about the water quality down here in southern Utah. We have a lot of stuff in our water that a lot of people are unaware of, and so he's going to bring the knowledge here today and let us know what's going on.
Yeah. Well, like I said, thanks for having me. Maybe we should talk about our companies and how we came together. Maybe that's a good idea. I'm actually a third generation water guy, for lack of a better term. My family has been doing it since way before I was born. My grandfather, when he got out of World War II, actually put some of the first water softeners that anybody ever had in the early 50s. We actually had to pour salt and turn a valve. It was a very manual process, but that's kind of how our family got started into it. You fast forward a few sons, my uncle and his wife started a company in 2002 in their garage to do local sales and service in Indiana.
Mark?
Yep, that's Mark. And his wife, and they literally, in their garage, she was running the books, he was, building the stuff and going and installing it. Fast forward a few months, and I actually came along, little 17-year-old, Luke, ready to take on the world. And I discovered that I was a terrible plumber. So I decided just to stick to the science and the water quality part of it, right? Actually, in the beginning days, we would, I'd dress up and I'd go knock on doors and sell stuff, and then in the afternoon I'd go change into my work clothes and I'd go install it because we were just all we had, right? So that's kind of how it started, and in 2007, my uncle decided that he was going to make a website. And so he did. Took him a couple months, and we had a really crappy website. Put it up on there on the World Wide Web. Put some money in the Yahoo machine, I think it was back then. And 38 minutes later, we sold a water softener in New Jersey, and that was kind of like a watershed moment, pun intended. Hey, there's a bigger market out there that needs our help, right? And so we kind of disrupted that door-to-door in-home water sales market by going online. And so, fast forward about 2018, we really started focusing on manufacturing American-made products. That was our focus. And so, there's only so many people that will buy a water softener online and install it themselves. We're really good at supporting them in that, but there's a huge market of people that like to have it done for them, right? They want to have somebody who's a professional, who knows what they're doing, who can give them a guarantee to install, their system, maintain it, for the life of the system. And so we said, look, we're here in Indianapolis serving, the entire United States. Let's look at this a different way. Who is already in the home? Who already has their trust? Who already has a relationship? The plumbers, right? Because it just makes sense, right? And so what we did is we decided to make a specific line of products, American-made products, for plumbers and service professionals. And you guys were one of our first clients and have been the absolute the blueprint for what we're trying to do at Penguin Water. I've talked a lot there, so that's kind of the story of Penguin Water.
And I think we started with you about 5 years ago or so. And just a little background, I had probably gone through about, I don't know, at least 20 manufacturers of different water softening manufacturers, and I was always struggling finding the support, the help, because let's just be honest here. I mean, we're plumbers. we don't know what you know as far as the water goes. So we know that a
You're
system
learning.
softens the water. We know it removes what calcium, magnesium, that kind of things. There's a ton of other things in the water that we weren't aware of. When we go and install a softener, man, my stinking throat is jacked up. When we go in and install a water softener, that's what we just know we're installing one. We don't know if it's sized correctly for the home. We don't know anything else that goes along with it. And so we've gotten very educated from you guys going to Penguin University, sending technicians out to Indiana to learn from the actual water masters in the United States, so we can better our clients and serve them, the correct ways in getting them the water quality that they're really looking for. So there's a lot of people out there that think, oh, I have a water softener, my water's already pure, it's good to go. And the truth is, if you're on a well or have other contaminants inside the water, that's not the truth.
That's absolutely right. And I'm glad you touched on education, because that's one of the cornerstones of Penguin Water is, we want to train you guys, because people want to know that the person that's treating the water that they drink every day for cooking, for drinking, for bathing, for cleaning, for everything, they want to know that that guy that's putting that in knows what is going to solve their problem, right? At the end of the day, that's all it's about. And so what we do is we put an extraordinary focus on being available. We have like a kind of a code word. If somebody's on site, we got to get to them right then, right? Because you need help right then. You don't want to look like, you don't know what you're talking about, right? So we are there all the time for you to support you. Go ahead.
And I want to touch on that a little bit. Like when I first started working with you guys, we installed a very large system in the small family, and I had never done a system like that. I was having issues with it. It was one of those things. I think the guy was flying in for Christmas. We had to get the system done, and I was having issues. I was working day and night on this thing, and I think I was calling Steve, who is now the CEO of the company, and I was calling him at like 2 a.m. You guys were answering the phone for us, helping us out. I think you guys actually got on an airplane and flew out to help us, look at all the system after it was installed and installed correctly and good to go. So that's another reason that I chose to go with Penguin, is because not only are you guys have such a long history, installing water softeners, inventing them pretty much, that I mean, not inventing them, but right there with everybody. The customer service that you guys provide is top notch. It's not a normal customer service, and I would go around to every manufacturer, every kind of business, anything. Like, I just don't see customer service the way that you guys deliver things.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. It's definitely a focus for us. We wouldn't be able to do what we do without you guys and without your customers, and without that drive to please our everybody, right? We got to make you happy. We got to make everybody happy. At the end of the day, if that faucet opens up and that water isn't what they expected, we all fail, right? So I'm on the team with you guys, right?
And I think it is truly a team. It's a team between the client, between Element, and between Penguin, because we are in the home addressing all these issues, right? We can talk about soft water softening all day long. That is the most visual. You can feel it. Everything about water.
It's a quality of life issue, right?
Yeah. But that's just the beginning of it. And so to educate about what are the other things that you don't see and feel is a whole nother story.
I'm glad you asked about that, because I'd love to talk about that. I think I'll take us back though. You guys ever played Oregon Trail, like when you were growing up in the library or whatever, right? You know how little Susie always used to die of cholera or typhoid?
Yeah.
Right? That's because of poor water quality, right? When you're heading across the frontier, you can't really decide where you're gonna get water all the time, right? And they had some pretty bad hygiene practices. So all that's to say, in the early 1900s, we discovered this great stuff called chlorine. And in Michigan, I believe it was Grand Rapids, I think was the first city to do it. They put chlorine in the water, and it was great. Typhoid, cholera, all went away. Everything was awesome for a couple years, until we figured out that when chlorine kills things like bacteria and microorganisms, it makes these things called disinfection byproducts. And you guys at home can more than welcome to Google this. Disinfection byproducts are known carcinogens. So every city is actually mandated to keep them down below a certain level. And that's not always possible. But that's just one of the problems. And, it's like, yes, the chlorine is great. It saves us, but also you don't have to drink it, right? It's in there so that while it's under the ground in the pipes, that it stays nice and clean, no bacteria grows. But that, like I said, it doesn't mean you have to drink it when it comes out of your faucet. So what a lot of people choose to do is, filter their point of use where they're drinking their water. You probably see a lot of Brita filters. There's under sink filters. There's countertop filters. We obviously focus on, professionally installed under sink, as you guys know. But there's lots of ways to skin the cat. You guys have lots of offerings for your customers. But that's just kind of the basic. You got to start there, right? If you're on city water, yes, it could be hard. Hardness doesn't really hurt you. As a matter of fact, your body just processes those minerals just like normal, like you're eating food, no big deal. But those disinfection byproducts, everybody that's on a municipal water system has to deal with them, and everybody should filter those first. So that's a big thing. And then there's all these, hot topics right now. I'm sure you guys heard of microplastics. Anybody heard of microplastics?
Of course.
I think what is it? We eat like a credit card every year or something like that worth of, And the scariest part about that is we don't really know what the effects are of those. So, we're all collecting these, and the ones that are too small to be, flushed out by our body just collect. They just
Endocrine disruptors, biomimickers.
Yeah.
Go on about
that. Yeah. You know a lot more about the health side than I do, but the basic, the basic concept of it's pretty terrifying because, I mean, if we all look around right now, I'm sure we could probably find, 20 or 30 things that are plastic, and they all contribute, right? Water is one of your biggest, contributors to that. So if you're filtering your water, you're going to greatly reduce your exposure. There's obviously lots of things you can do. You can get rid of cutting boards, plastic cutting boards, those kind of things. But your water is your biggest one. And then, anybody ever seen the movie Dark Waters? Mark Ruffalo. You ever heard of Forever Chemicals? Anybody heard of those?
Absolutely.
Right. So
Teflon, all the things that are wonderful and awful at the same time.
And there's a lot of misconceptions about that. So Teflon isn't bad for you, right? If you were to eat a pan, right, your body would just flush all that out. It's the chemicals that they use to make those coatings and those things. They use it in firefighting foam. They use it in nonstick cookware. They use it in Scotch Guard. They use it in popcorn bags. It's literally everywhere. And the problem is they have such long, strong fluorine carbon bonds that they're really hard to break. And so that means they stay around for a long time. The guy who discovered it was trying to burn it, was trying to do all acid, bases. He couldn't do anything with it. It just didn't go anywhere. And that's kind of the discovery, right? So that's another big thing we have to contend with. There's not really a silver bullet for all this stuff. And so the point of me saying all this is it's way more than just hardness, right? And the best way to figure out what's in your water first, that's the first step, figure out what's in your water, and to treat your water is to talk to a professional like these fine folks here at Element Plumbing. We help them get the water tested and then apply the specific technologies in the right size. That's really important for your home.
It's a lot of doom and gloom, right? Like, these are scary topics. We have to have water. It's a part of our life. We won't survive without it. But the good news is that all of them can be remedied, every single one of them. And it depends on what you're looking for your home, for your family, anything from point of use systems to more whole home systems. There is a way to remove byproducts. There's a way to remove the natural chemicals that end up in our water from erosion and whatnot. And there's data that helps us to build the systems that are right for each home, whether it's city water data or a test on a well or whatever. We work with Luke in particular to build these systems and install them with the support of experts in water and phenomenal plumbers.
Yeah, we have about 300 collective years, like 345 collective years of water treatment experience in our sales and applications team. So, a lot of times when you guys call me, it's not just me you're talking to, or Dom or Tim or the other guys. It's you have this whole group of people, this army of knowledge, and that's what we bring to your customers too. Your customers have access to that. So.
And we're the same way, right? When you call Element Plumbing, you've got
Hundreds of years,
hundreds
probably.
of years of plumbing experience. So I feel like
You're a master plumber, right, John?
for
Yes,
a
sir.
long
A
time,
master's, that's right.
I have a master's.
All right. We're all three masters. Look at this.
But it's important to know that the person who arrives at your home or the equipment that arrives at your home it's not just that person. It's not just that piece. It is a team. It's teams and teams, and there's a lot of support. And the best part is all of us like to educate, and that is a core, a mission statement, a core value for us is educating. And so we're here to talk about your water. We're here to bring Luke in on a conversation to make sure that everybody understands and that we can build systems that accommodate needs.
And I don't want to go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, so real quick, let's break into that a little bit. Like we're based here in southern Utah. Southern Utah has some pretty hard water, a lot of things in the water that we don't know about. Jaimie, being that your chemistry background, being a teacher, knowing all that kind of stuff. Luke, being that you're a water master, I kind of want to listen to both of you guys talk about specifically what we have in our water here, what we can do to prevent it coming into our homes, and just hear the knowledge that you guys have on the water around here.
And I think it's important to start, where do you get this information? Every city has its own water quality report. It is easily accessible. St. George has a fair amount of information about arsenic on their website. That's a good place to start. Understand where you can get your data and how you can access that information. And then from there, we can start to educate around those ideas, or around the data.
Exactly. And I always use this analogy. So if you've heard this, forgive me, but water is literally, especially well water, is as diverse as a fingerprint. Like you could drill a hole in the ground over there and get one type of water quality, and you could literally go 10 foot the other way and get a completely different, water makeup. Excuse me, water makeup. And so when we talk about water quality, we talk about all these things. It's usually a sequence or a linear, sequential treatment system that is in the right order to take out the things that are in your water, right? And like you said, a great resource is your local municipality. You should definitely go to, your city website and check your water report. They do it sometimes two times a year. They post those. But another great resource is ewg.org. They have a whole bunch of resources. They have PFAS contamination maps, suspected contamination maps, industrial discharge. So first of all, you can look at that map and you can say, all right, am I close to that? Right? They got dots everywhere. Chances are you probably are. Something like 39% of Americans live within 3 miles of a hazardous waste site or some type of industrial spill. And we've only been keeping track since the 70s. So anyway, so it's good to look at, the map and see where you're at, to know what, kind of risks. If you're near a military base or a airport, you're probably going to have some of those forever chemicals. And then you can also test your water. So for instance, if you're worried about something that's not reported, because it's a pretty limited report from the municipality. As you guys know, we do a full laboratory analysis when we do that. And it's important we don't do it ourselves. That's really important to know. That's a conflict of interest to test the water that you're going to treat, right? So we do use a third party. We use a lot of simple labs. We use ETR laboratories, all EPA certified laboratories. So now you can double check the city if you want to. We have tests that you can do that. So you can look at those disinfection byproducts, those volatile organic compounds. But the EWG is a great place to start if you're in city water. If you're in well water, always test the water. That's my, it's kind of a core tenet.
You recommend testing that at least once a year if you're on well water.
Yeah, at least once a year. If you have, you guys are in a challenging area. We have a lot of, when you have mountains, you have a lot of runoff. That really affects the aquifers. So in an area like this, if you find that you're on a well that's just different all the time, sometimes it's cloudy, sometimes it's just, it feels weird, it smells funny, and other times of the year it doesn't, you might want to test it a little more often. So it's just, you gotta roll with the punches of where your well is,
So let's pause right there. If people have questions about water, they're going to look at city water data. They are able to use EWG as another resource, and then you can call Element and we can come out and test your water. We use a third-party lab, like Luke said. once we test your water, send it off, we consult with Luke. We ask him questions. What are the problems that this home or this water source is experiencing? How do we build systems to make sure that we are eliminating what our clients are asking us to eliminate? Some people don't mind hardness, right? So that's going to be a factor in our conversation. And then from there, we will come back and educate you. So you don't have to test your water yourself. We're able to come do that for you and provide those results to you, keep track of them as they come in.
Yeah, it's really, really cost effective for that peace of mind. I think that's some of the best money that you can spend, right? I have two little kids, and before I ever had kids, like I was like, typical wild, crazy, 20-year-old guy, and never thought that I would be having, conversations about thinking about my family's health and things like that. But it's, as you guys know, as soon as you have a kid, all your priorities, refocus. And I can't think of anything more important than making sure that my kids have, clean, pure water. When you look at, knowing what I know and all the things that I get to read and, studies and stuff, all you guys listening, just filter your water. Just do it, please. for your kids, for you, for everybody.
It's not about like, it can be a fearful topic. My dad passed away from cancer. My mom has cancer. Like, I kind of used to say, like, maybe it's in the water. Well, there are things in the water that are really bad for us. But then not allowing us to, like, I guess this is shifting from fear to action is really easy. You know what I mean? You don't have to be fearful about it because there's ways around it. But it is important that we know what we are being exposed to.
Yeah, and the last thing I want to do is scare anybody, right? I mean, if you're on city water, a glass of water isn't going to kill you. But if you drink, 8 glasses of water a day for 30 years of water that has a high exposure of disinfection byproducts, that's going to raise your risk. And I actually did something really cool, and I'll give you guys this so you can show it. I tested my blood for forever chemicals, and this is really interesting. So we're probably going to start offering it, and you guys will have access to this. It's about $300, and it's conducted by Eurofins. They're actually a huge global laboratory. I'm sure you've heard of Eurofins. They sell to like Quest Diagnostics and stuff. Mm-hmm. So you can order an at-home blood test where you prick your finger and you put your blood on these little pads, send it in 2 weeks, you get your results. And I was thinking, I've been drinking reverse osmosis water since I was born. My family, has, water filtration. Every faucet has water filtration, right? But I spent 4.5 years in the United States Army, and I'm pretty sure during that time I was living on an Army base, stationed there, active duty, drinking out of water buffaloes and out of the faucet there. I'm sure I got some exposure. So I was really curious about how it was going to come out. So I did my test, and first of all, it's very eye-opening to see how many people. I don't know if you guys know this, but 100% of blood tested has forever chemicals in it. 100%. They say 99, but like there's documentaries where they talk to people who run those tests in labs, and they say, "Yeah, I'd like to meet that 1% because I've never tested their blood." So the moral of that story is that my levels, were lower than most people. I'm lower than about 70% of the United States, but I still had exposure, and I'm thinking it was probably mostly, from my time in the Army. So it's eye-opening. And then there's they have this chart where it says if it's higher than this, you're, double the risk of, liver cancer or kidney cancer or whatever. So, you should probably get that tested if you're concerned about that. If you've lived near an Army base or an airport or something like that. And it's the last thing we want to do is scare you, right? You watching this at home. But at the end of the day, I feel like in our position we'd be kind of negligent if we didn't tell you these kind of things. So it's it's not anything that you need to stop everything you're doing and do it right now. But it's something you should think about, right? And yeah. You guys want to get your blood tested?
Yeah.
I'll send you some blood tests.
Thanks, Luke, for coming out on such a short notice. I mean, you flew in last night at 11 o'clock. You got to head out today at noon. That's Pretty awesome that you took the time to do that for us.
Anything for you guys.
Yeah, man. Appreciate that very much. Stay tuned for another podcast coming up soon. We'll see you guys soon.
Thanks, guys.